Tweety Pot listeners, two of us are only children. That's D and J. And Kat has a sibling. And I thought it would be interesting for us to talk about our experiences because I know personally, whenever I tell somebody or they ask, "Oh, do you have siblings?" and I say no, their immediate next question, which I fucking hate, is, "Oh, you were spoiled, weren't you?" What?
Seriously, people say that?
Because I'm the only child in the household or the only child my parents decided to have. Yeah. "Oh, you were spoiled." And they kind of laugh and I kind of go along with it. But I'm tired of that now. I'm not going to respond
I just
to
think
that
that's
anymore.
such a rude comment
Well,
to make.
it goes also with this, that happens to women a lot. Women who choose not to have children, they say, "Do you have any kids?" No. Oh, well, there's plenty of time. What? Everybody doesn't want to have a child.
Right, exactly.
Like you failed or
Exactly.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see somebody saying, "Oh, did you want siblings?" or something like that.
They
But
say
Yeah,
that
that's a good
too.
question. Yeah.
to say, "Oh,
Oh,
you
you
must
must
have
have been
spoiled."
lonely. They say all kinds of crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I never had a problem with it.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, when you're younger, I will say, having a cousin or something that's your age would have been, or that lived by you would have been nice, but because you want to play as a kid, right? Have a buddy to ride your bike with or do stuff outside with. But I had neighborhood friends. That was enough for me. Then I went to school. You have your school friends. So I never felt, what I did feel was I guess it felt like more attention from both my parents because there's nobody else that they had to be emotionally available for, I guess, in the house except for themselves. And I did like that aspect of it. And I wouldn't say it's spoiled. It's just there's more resources, right? When you don't have to divide it
I think you'd
amongst two
probably
kids.
I think you just have a different kind of relationship in the family. I think the family
Yeah.
dynamic is just a little different, right? I mean, I've known only children that just feel they're super tight with their parents
Yeah.
because of that, right? It's the three of them together,
Mm.
right? And
That's what I
so
always felt like the Three Musketeers.
yeah. I think when you have more than one kid, it sets up a little more like parents and the kids.
Mhm.
It's sort of just a different dynamic. My brother is 4 years younger than me, so we didn't really play together exactly, right? There was a big enough age difference. If we went on vacation, we would play together. Like we went camping a lot when I was a kid, and so we would play together when we were at camp.
Mm.
But at home, we had our separate friends because of
Okay.
the age difference, and we were never at the same school
Oh, yeah.
because we went to public school and the public schools tended to be in like kindergarten through third grade, then fourth through sixth, then,
Mhm.
but I did like having a sibling, although I wished we were closer in age.
Mm.
And so when I had my kids, I was actually really conscious of that. Like I didn't want to wait too long between the kids
Yeah.
because I wanted them to be closer in age.
Like people who have these, so I remember I went to school with somebody, we were graduating high school and their parents had a baby so that's an 18-year gap. And they had another sibling like in the middle of
Right,
that too, but I was
right.
like, ow.
I mean, I know somebody, well, these people that are colleagues, I guess, and they deliberately had their children like 8 years apart.
Really?
Yeah, because they wanted to feel like they sort of raised one before
Mhm.
they raised the other.
Oh, okay. One's like a test run and the other's the final
But I was like,
experiment.
wow, I don't know. I don't think I'd want to be doing diapers that far apart
No.
and terrible twos or something like.
Yeah,
To me, it was easier to just have them all closer together.
I
The other
agree.
part of that is that when you have a child that far apart, 15, 18 years, that is going to be a responsibility for the older child.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because most likely the parents will
We're
be
gonna
gone.
pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing when you have a developmentally
oh,
disabled child.
okay. I
You know,
was even thinking that when they're children, I mean, we knew this family, a couple of the kids were friends with my kids. They had 11 children and
Were
no
they Mormon?
multiples. No, they were not Mormon.
Wow.
mm.
Not Mormon. They were
Catholic.
fundamentalist Christian.
Okay.
Oh, well, okay.
And
Yeah.
so they had 11 kids, and basically the older ones had to take care of the younger ones.
So unfair.
No.
Yeah. I mean, like the oldest two girls, I never saw them without a toddler holding their hand or a baby on their hip.
That's not fair
It's not fair
at all.
My mother grew up in
Wow.
a family of, I think it was 8. There were 8 of them. And then my grandmother took in 2 more cousins who she raised like there. So they're like 10 kids in and out. But I remember my aunt her older sister said she never wanted kids because her mother put that on them, you know,
Oh, that
the
burden.
cooking, the chores, the this, because she was always taking care of a baby and she couldn't wait. So I know my mother left at 18 and married an older man.
Mm.
She wanted to get out of the house. She married a guy 32. And then my aunt married a guy from the church, and that didn't last, but she did it to get out of the house
Right. Right.
and then moved. You can't do that to your children. That's not their responsibility.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
no, if you that's the way I feel about parents. Like, of course, there are unfit parents everywhere, right? People
Mhm.
you could say they probably shouldn't have had kids, and I'm like, if you choose to bring a life into the world, that is you did that. They didn't choose that at all.
Mhm.
It's not their fault, and you should never make them feel that way. But on another note about having a sibling, this is another thing that I thought about. If there was like conflict in the home, I remember like, damn, there's nobody else to bounce this off of, like to talk shit
Oh,
about your
I can
parents.
relate to
Oh,
that.
you mean if you're frustrated with something?
Yeah.
I wish she would
that-
shut the hell up. Yeah, I
Right,
remember. I
yeah.
can't tell you how many times. And I
Suffer in
say that
silence.
I loved my parents. I really did. But Lord have mercy. When the storm came,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was
You
all
all-
focused
that
on
was
you.
it. So,
There's
what I
getting
did
away.
do is I split them because they had two different ways of dealing with things. My father was a listener and he was a negotiator. And my mother was not a negotiator. She would get angry. She was one of those, I'm going to tell your father when he gets home and blah, 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 blah. And he would immediately say, okay, what happened? Paint the picture for me. What'd you do? What did you think was the best resolution to this? He would listen. She would just-
Diplomatic.
definitely. But he was a prison warden too. So he did that for a living.
You feared him anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about you, Kat? Did you not conspire, but confide in your
Um,
brother or vice versa? If there
I
was.
I guess I think so, but I can't just offhand think of instances of it. But
Mhm.
I think that did happen.
Or what about with your own kids? Do you remember like a little story or something that happened, or they?
Well,
Because you got three. You don't. There's not just two of them. There's three of them. So that's
Three
like
very different ones too. I'll
three
say
against.
that as a witness.
yeah. Yeah, no, they definitely, well, I don't know if they conspired when I was angry at one of them, but they
Mhm.
definitely conspired to get into shit and do stuff and talk each other into doing bad stuff. But I'm trying to think if there was any, I think it was mostly they would conspire together to decide to do something that they knew wasn't the right thing to do. One particular instance is when the boys saw Jurassic Park and it scared them so much they didn't want to go to the bathroom. So they decided to pee in the corner of the living room. So, yeah, that one really sticks out in
Oh my
in my
god, that's funny.
Oh God. But you gotta laugh at that.
yeah.
Like
Creative solution
Well, like
for
the
them.
boys are very close in age. They're less than 2 years apart and they stick together a lot. I mean, my daughter is the oldest one, so she was sort of the enforcer type and they could be scared of her because she saw herself as like the other mother, I guess.
Mhm.
But, the boys, they went to daycare from when they were very young, and at this daycare, they definitely stuck together, and if anybody was messing with one of them, the other one went after them.
There you go.
Yeah.
A wingman
That's
for
what
life.
you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
seriously. I don't get these siblings too that like they grow up in a house and they're like, I hate my sister.
Oh, I know, that's sad. That's
It's
so sad to me
yeah.
to think of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that happens. I don't want to place blame on anybody. Maybe it's just stuff
Yeah.
happens. Sometimes you come into
Well,
a
I mean,
family and it's not the right fit.
yeah.
You know.
I think, I don't know, rightly or wrongly, I lay some blame on the parents for that because I don't know, I kind of taught the kids from really the birth of their sibling. I was like, this is your sibling, this is your brother, this is your sister, and when we're gone,
That's it.
this is going to be your family, so you guys got to stick together and you got to stick up for each other. And I deliberately worked to make sure that they were close. You know what I mean? It's like
See-
I would try to foster that rather. I've seen some parents do horrific things with, why can't you be like your brother?
Yeah.
That
Look at
crazy.
how smart your sister is. Why can't you do that? And that's just so crazy to me. Like,
It's
what are you doing?
you're saying that, and that's the answer, Jay, because what Kat is talking about, I still have in my family of cousins. And I grew up next door to my mother's sister, and her husband lived next door, and my cousin. And we were further apart. We were what, 5, 6 years apart, but we were close, until he went away to college. And even now, you have to be taught that because, as I've said before to you all and on this podcast, I have a close knit group of cousins, and we range from 75 on down to late 50s, and we're close. And it was really like programmed into us that,
Yeah.
that you're all you have.
For sure.
Like, doesn't matter. You have to stick together, you know?
Mhm.
So, and I have two male cousins in particular who really make that happen. I talk to
Yes.
them every week. They make sure that the family's connected. Nobody forgets anybody's birthdays. But I will say this, you had asked me earlier before we sat down about the sibling situation.
Oh yeah. So D and I guess I'm the only true, I'll put that in quotes, only child at this table because you've mentioned it before, but D, you were adopted and you
Right.
found out later in life that you had four
Four
siblings that you found later in life. So how did that make you
Four.
feel?
It's strange. I mean, very strange. And also, I just add, what was that? I was 38 years old, right?
Mhm.
And I found out that I was biracial, which was a huge shocker to me.
Right.
Huge. And that I had one full sibling, same mother and father, another sister with a different mother, another brother with a different mother, and then two other siblings that had a different mother. So that's 1, 2, 3,
5.
5. There were 6 of us. So now there are 3 of us
How
living.
how many different mothers were there?
1, I'm counting.
There was your mom.
Audience. Then there's another set, that's 2. Then there's my brother, 4 different mothers.
Okay.
And I take no responsibility, audience, for that because I did not know my biological father.
Mm.
Obviously, he was a rolling stone. And it was nowhere near the parents or home that I had. I would not have experienced that. And I will just say this, an odd little fact is that my biological mother and my mother, people say adoptive mother, that's the only mother I know, were born on the same day.
Oh, were they really?
Mm.
The same day.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So I say for those who want to adopt, do it. Let your children know who they are and do not make it a big deal because my parents didn't. I never felt any kind of way.
When did they tell you were adopted?
I asked them when I was 5 years old. I remember the day that I came home from school. Yeah, maybe I was in the first grade. And my mother, I said, was I adopted? Because we were playing at school. And somebody said I was adopted. And then a couple people said, no, I wasn't, you know. And then I said, I don't know. I'm going to go home and ask. And my mother was making the bed. That's when you got out of school half day. I remember her making the bed. And I said, Mommy, was I adopted? And she looked at me and she said, yeah, you were. And she kept making the bed. And she said, the wonderful thing about that? And she just kept making the bed. She said, we chose each other. And I was like, okay.
It's a great answer.
It's a great answer. I turned around. I remember the day I went back outside and kept playing and never felt anything about it.
Mhm.
The only time I thought about this is when I started thinking about having a child and going through all my genetic testing and stuff. That's when I started, reached out to social services because mine was a public adoption. And I did find out, I knew that I had been in a foster home from 0 to 3 months. They got
Okay.
me when I was 3 months. And in fact, I have a cousin who's 95 now who remembers he was there the day they brought me home.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when I started finding all this information about being biracial and all this other stuff, then, it was like, you have a full sibling. And then after I started researching that, then all this stuff started coming out of the woodwork. So
Well,
As it
people
does.
reached out. I mean, you put your info on Ancestry and then
I did
people.
that after. I did that years later.
Right.
And
That's
then
that's when you found all
2
these
more people
other
popped up.
people,
2
right?
more.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
2 more. And now, so I say all that to say, in answer to your question, the 2 siblings that I do have, I will say that I'm close to my brother, closest,
Mhm.
because he and I call and talk on a regular basis. We've only met once, but he does not live far from here, but we talk regularly. My sister, we talk 3, 4 times a year, but she does reach out to my brother more. But I intend to meet her. And we also have an aunt. My biological father's youngest sister's still living, and she's almost 90. So we have a relationship with her. So I don't feel the same like Kat does, like having a brother, but I do feel like I have a big brother now because he's that kind of guy.
Mhm.
So, and my sister, we all talk and have made a vow to stay in touch with each
At
other.
least try to
Yeah.
connect. Yeah, stay
But
connected.
I would say I'm closest to him now because of our efforts. And we're not that
Absolutely.
far,
Yeah.
So, and he grew up completely differently than I did. But there's so many things that must be in your DNA because he has a lot of
Yeah, you're similar. Very
my
similar.
tendencies.
That must be really interesting
It's
to
interesting.
meet that as an adult and be like,
It's
what?
so bizarre because I'm 4'11", he's like what, 6'2", 6'3".
Mhm.
Wow.
It's completely different, but our sense of humor, our paranoia,
The neuroses. Yeah.
so similar.
Super specific.
And Kat and Jay can testify to my neuroses.
Wow, that's that nature versus nurture
Right?
thing really comes
Seriously.
through.
It's
So
the
true.
truth.
So
It's
true.
true.
For sure. And I want my house to be noisy, so I'm gonna have a couple kids when and if
Mhm.
that opportunity presents itself. Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in to another episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please follow, comment, and reach out on our socials. Also, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you resonated with anything in the episode, be it products or topics, make sure to check the show notes for additional information, or shoot us an email if you like. See you next time.